perfect place to go. And it was really like, it was amazing.
They got everything.
Yeah, they got everything. And then, what the hell? So I was talking, what's the name of the guy that I was talking to?
I think you were talking to Scott.
Yeah. And then, so I was like, I'm like, we're looking for a kayak. My wife wants a kayak. Me and the kids, we have paddle boards. But I kind of like the kayak too. We had just recently gone on a kayak trip, and she wanted like a kayak for like her birthday present. So we're looking around, and we're still kind of learning about it, because it was like a new thing for us. And he brought up Los Buzos in the conversation, and I'm like, yeah, like there was this guy that caught this Black Marlin on a kayak, and I spoke to him on social. We talked about him coming in for a podcast, and then I guess you had to go there, and then that died.
Oh, and that,
like once you go to Panama, you're like there for a little while, right?
Right.
Yeah, so it's like, all right, well, I didn't get him before, but I got you now.
You got me now.
So here you are. So he's like, oh yeah, maybe I could put you in touch, and then you reached out, and I was like, all right, cool. So we rekindled it. So I'm like super stoked that you're here.
I'm glad we did. Yeah. Sometimes I go when I go back there, I go dark for a little while.
Yeah.
Depends on how
I don't blame you, man.
For.
That's what you should do. Yeah, for sure. So so we looked. They were really super helpful and all that. So it was really cool. But I'm glad you're here.
Yeah.
So welcome to the Connected by Water podcast. Right? And we are fueled by our very good friends at Papa's Pilar Rum, who remind you never to be a spectator. I'm your host, Dennis Friel, and we are coming to you from the Connected by Water Studio Gallery, comfortably located between the Intracoastal and the sand in scenic and sunny Pompano Beach, Florida. I know you love that I wrote that, Yanni. Like, it's so wordsmith, isn't it? Right? It's beautiful. Right. So, all right, we are a Waypoint hosted podcast. You can find us there or watch, listen, and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Don't forget to hit that like button, and please, we would love to hear from you in the comments or by email at sales@connectedbywater. Before we get rolling, what we do every episode is we mention our do-gooder of the week, and that is from Starbright. And I am going to bring this up here on my phone, which I should have had ready. And this week's do-gooder is Leah Bleichner, and she is our do-gooder of the week. She is a shining star who runs the Marker 24 restaurant, and while juggling all that, she takes up the time to pick up mangrove propagules for Corey Red Wine up there to help grow out, and she really basically assists Corey planting all the mangroves and the outplanting and everything that they do up there, which I think is really, really cool. So congrats, Leah. You win the bucket of Starbright goodies with all the salt off and all the boat wash and the what? The Reggae sponge. Yeah. So all that cool. So nice. You're based out of that area too, like up kind of like the Orlando, Central Florida area.
Yeah. So I'm in St. Cloud.
St. Cloud.
So like just southeast of Orlando. I get to be out of the traffic and a straight clear shot to the ocean too. So I'm in a perfect spot.
So I was just up there. So I don't know if you know Corey and Derek Redwine. Derek's another marine life artist. They live in the Merritt Island area.
Beautiful.
Like
spot.
really throw a rock and hit like Kennedy Space Center.
Yeah. I know that area very well.
Yeah. So I was just actually fishing with them there for, like red fishing, snook fishing. I don't know the name of the road. What was it? 528 or whatever, like that road that takes you down to the port.
Yeah.
Right. Just like in that Banana River.
Were you in that like dirt road area, like Biolab kind of?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Kind of. And I thought it was really cool that I put up a little video about it the other day that Derek pointed out to me. He's like, you see that structure over there? He's like, that used to be like a bomb target from like the 40s. I'm like, I thought that was the coolest thing, man. So we went over and checked it out, and
I saw that video.
I'm a geek with stuff like that.
No, it's super cool. I didn't know that. I've probably seen that thing, but because I've fished. That's where I grew up fishing. But yeah, I didn't know about that until I saw your video.
Yeah, and then like Derek's he's like indigenous to that area. Like really, it's really like old like salt rat from a kid growing up in that area, just like growing. I'm sure he's caught like the same fish like multiple times in that area. But Jonathan Moss from the Catherine Slock TV, he says, he's like, dude, there's more. There's more of those targets. He's like, I got to take you like next time you're up there. We'll go fishing. I'll take you around. So anyway, I thought that's cool.
Is it like deep inside of it? Like where they've
I don't know. Like a lot of people ask me that. They're like, oh, is it deeper in the middle? And I'm like, I really don't know. And some people are like, oh, do you think there's like ammo down there, like live ammo that never went off or never? I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I should dive it and like check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They probably they're all duds, I'm sure, right? Or else it would be blown to bits.
Yeah, I would think so.
But like out in the Keys, they have that area called the bombing grounds or whatever, and there's a bunch of holes that are like 20 feet by like 15 feet deep.
Where's that?
It's on the bay side,
Okay.
like between the Everglades and all of the Keys. I couldn't tell you
like
exactly
the
where it
upper
is.
keys and all that.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
think they call it the bombing grounds or the bomb holes or something like that.
Okay.
It's a somewhat known spot, I believe, by now. But there's like Goliath group that hang out in them. And
Okay, I'm gonna have to
People-
ask Grant
people
about
fishing.
that. Yeah, it's probably something that's like obvious. Like, dude, you don't know about the bombing grounds?
Yeah,
Like, no. Like, wait a minute. I thought I knew the keys pretty good.
no,
But
no. I don't know how well it's known.
Yeah.
I do know some people that know it, but maybe.
yeah, I don't know. So you grew up that area your whole life?
For the most part, until I went to college, I went to Florida Atlantic University. So
Okay. Oh, so you went to college here?
yeah. So
Nice.
and a big part of it was I knew it was a good fishing area. That was like a
Mm-hmm.
big part of why I went
It's a
there.
prerequisite.
Yeah, yeah. So I brought my kayak down with me, and I had my kayak on the roof of my truck while I was in the dorms, and I fished almost every single day.
Okay.
Like I was fishing before class or after class, usually I'd go out of Boca Inlet,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I remember going back into the dorms and cooking I'd be filleting like a 20 pound mahi.
Right.
All the other guys are making like peanut butter sandwiches. But that's when I really got into the offshore kayak thing.
Okay. Yeah.
So
How long
that's-
have you been doing? Is that right in college? That's when you really started doing the kayak?
So I did a lot of like inshore with my dad
Okay.
in the kayak, but I hadn't really done any offshore until I got down here.
Okay.
I did plenty of offshore when I was growing up in the boat, but first time I went offshore really was down here when I went to college. And so that was 2011 when I first started.
Okay. All right. Cool. We don't really talk about kayak fishing like enough on the show, and it's not for any other reason other than just most of the guys I'm bringing in are all, offshore captains of
Right.
like bigger boats, and that's just generally who our guest happens to be. But we always say like, oh, we want to have more kayak. We want to have a lot more inshore talk on the show, and I just feel like due to our proximity here in Pompano Beach, we have so many people like just offshore fishing or like sailfish and like kites and talking about that a lot because it's so easy for me to get those guys on the show because everyone's like right here for that.
For sure.
But we've been trying to make more of an effort of bringing in like kayak fishermen and more inshore and talk more about fly fishing and all other things. I mean, after all, we're connected by water. You know what I mean?
Right.
We're broader than just like one particular type of fishing. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you're here to talk about that. So you were talking a little bit before the show about like different propulsions and different pedal aspects of it. I mean, obviously when you're going offshore, like the pedaling is got to be like an essential
Yeah.
part to
And
that, right?
even
I would
inshore,
imagine
too.
you paddling that the whole way.
Yeah. And the big thing is like when you're actually fishing, you don't have to worry about having a paddle in your hand. Like when you're and when you're fighting a fish, a lot of times like with a big fish, you'll be fighting it and you're sitting in the middle of that kayak. And a lot of times if you don't have a rudder or a way to pedal or chase them,
Right.
that kayak pivots and he pulls you broadside. And that can be dangerous. Like I've had to I used to be a guide out of Boynton for a long time, and I would take out guys and I would always tell them like it's a lot better if you bring a pedal drive kayak out here. And one guy just bought a brand new paddle I think it was a Jackson kayak, and we're an hour into the day and he hooks a sailfish and he's about to get spooled, and I have to pedal over to him, grab his kayak, turn it towards the fish and chase it down because he was about to get spooled because he couldn't keep up with it, and he couldn't turn towards it. And I mean, you can do it if you're skilled enough. You can put the paddle in the water and steer and like kind of hold the rod with your legs and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's so much easier to have the pedal system and your rudder and hold the rod and do your thing that way.
Wow, it's funny. I didn't even think of that, like the actual fighting of the fish. I was thinking more of just like getting out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many different things that play into it. The pedal drive is such a game changer.
Yeah, for sure. And you do tons of other types of fishing too, other than kayak fishing. If anyone has the time, go and check out Adam's YouTube channel. It's really, really good. I was going through it all today, and I was like, man, you got a lot of like really good content on
Appreciate
there.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, especially I think it was cool that you were doing like the world record barracuda. I mean,
Oh yeah.
take me through that.
Yeah. So I mean, people have caught way bigger barracudas, right? But it's IGFA has this new thing for length records, and there's a couple. I mean, I don't know how new it is, but to get a certified length record, you have to have their tape. And we were just looking through records because we have the record roosterfish at Los Buzos, and we have like 5 or 6 other world records. But I just happened to see Great Barracuda length record was not super big, and I was like, we can go get that. It was kind of just like a goal. Can we go do it the first time we try? And we were able to do it.
Really?
Yeah. But so somebody can smoke me too. Like if somebody's listening to this, they can probably go get it.
Where were you when you caught that?
So we were in Port St. Lucie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that power plant area. It's just overrun by barracudas. And I didn't actually think about it because me and my buddy went out there and we were fishing this area and we were going for cobia or tarpon or something. And we go to this buoy and there's just barracudas stacked next to each other.
Right.
And I think I whipped over a blue runner or something, and a monster barracuda eats it. It's jumping around. I was like scared to land this fish because it's jumping out of the water. Its teeth are like gnarly, jumping towards the boat, doing circles. Biggest barracuda I've ever seen. We fight it for like 20 minutes or something, and we get it next to the boat, and my buddy's like, gaff it. I'm like, I don't want to gaff it. Like I don't know what we're gonna do with this thing. He's like, gaff it. So I gaff it. We put it in the boat. And then we measured it, and it was just monstrous.
Yeah.
And then it was after that I had looked up the world record, and I was like, man, we've like doubled it with this fish or more.
Really?
So then we just went back like the next week, and then I had the tape, and then I got a certified one, but it wasn't near as big as that one.
Oh, okay.
But that's kind of what brought me over to get that fish too.
So the first one is bigger than
way
the one,
bigger.
The one in the thumbnail. You actually got the
The one in the thumbnail is that fish, that big one.
Oh, that's the one.
It's not the one that gets caught in the video.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
But I mean, the one in the video is still big,
right?
But it's just not the monster that we caught before. Like that one was about as tall as me.
Right.
That first one.
So that's cool, man. So all right, so you went to FAU, you're kayaking around, right? And you've been fishing your whole life, and when do you get to the point where you're like, I could really make a living out of this?
So I never really planned on being a guide. Like it wasn't really a thing in my mind. I went to school to be FWC because mainly I just wanted to have a job where I was out on the water all the time.
Right.
So that was the only thing I could really think of. But in the meantime, like I was going to class.
So you studied in college to do this?
I got a degree in criminal justice.
Okay.
So, so my plan was just to graduate and then go to FWC. But during class, I was fishing nonstop everywhere. And we did all kinds of stuff. I was offshore catching, sailfish and wahoo and stuff. And I had a couple other buddies that we would go inshore with, and we ended up catching giant sawfish, and we'd go inshore catch tarpon. We kind of did everything that you could think of. And then just right after I graduated, I was like doing all the training for FWC, and while I was doing that, my buddies Matt and Eric with Deep Blue Kayak Fishing, you might know about them. They're local here. They asked me if I could help out and do some charters for them because they're starting to grow their offshore kayak fishing business. And so it was perfect for me because I had just graduated. I needed a little bit of money, but I was also doing some training, and so I was doing the majority of their charters for a while, and I'd never really planned to like keep it going, but then I had the opportunity, we had the opportunity to go down to Panama, to Los Buzos because the owner invited us to bring like a group of our clients, and we were thinking about like setting it up as like a yearly like Panama expedition kind of trip thing, and so we brought I ended up going. Matt and Eric went. They had a pretty good time, and then like 3 months later, we decided to bring a group down, and we kind of had it together. So they brought me down a couple weeks ahead of time, so that I would have a little bit of the lay of the land and catch some fish, and not just go in and be guiding these people and not know what I was really doing in the area, So I go down with my dad, and we caught pretty much everything that you could catch besides cuberas. Like there's in Panama down at Los Buzos, there's an incredible amount of species, and like we have like everything. We have the roosterfish,
right?
We got bonefish, there's tarpon there, there's blue marlin, black marlin, yellowfin tuna, tons of yellowfin tunas. We catch them almost every day. You can pretty much count on them catching them every
thick
week.
as thieves down there, right?
Yeah. Like the locals sell them for like a quarter a pound because
really?
you can't get rid of them because there's so many.
Great.
It's wild.
The nuisance fish. Huh?
Yeah, pretty much. You'll hear the owner. He'll say, "Yeah, we call it cat food."
Oh man,
we get tired of eating yellowfin.
That's my favorite fish to eat.
I know. Me and my buddy had a challenge to see who could just eat yellowfin for the longest time.
Right.
We went I think I made it 5 days, but we were loading plates of just sashimi, just eating it for every meal, and I think we went 5 days on that. But yeah, if you eat it every day like that,
so the mercury kicks in, right?
Yeah, right. No, but yeah, yellowfin. There's and they get big too. We've been catching some big ones on the poppers, and they're super fun. But mahi, you got everything you can think of. But so me and my dad went down there. We caught mahi, African pompano, everything. But I didn't catch a roosterfish or a cubera.
Right.
My dad caught a roosterfish, and I had plenty of bites. I just I was too big on the. The owner kind of wanted me to just catch a marlin, I think, because he was like, "Yeah, you just got to go out here with 20 hooks and big bonitas," and so I was catching 6-inch blue runners and throwing them back.
Right.
And in hindsight, if I kept some of those blue runners and put them out, I would have caught so many roosterfish, and that's the main thing I wanted to catch.
Right.
But
I'm 0 for 2 on roosters.
Oh man,
on rooster trips, I still have not gotten a rooster yet.
You got to come down. You'll get some.
I'm bumming, man. Now.
We had a day. One of my first weeks down there, we went 3 days to the same spot and caught 55, all on poppers.
Okay.
That was our best day on roosterfish.
All on poppers.
All on poppers.
55.
55.
In one day.
Yeah.
Come on.
No. 3 days.
3 days.
Yeah, because we just kept going back to the same spot. But we could have caught more. It was there was just a school there for the entire 3 days.
I mean, your shoulder after the popper it's got to be hanging.
We were having fun with it, right?
Yeah.
So we're throwing the poppers out, and you'd pop it one time, and then you'd see them coming over.
Oh, so you're not sitting there having the yank.
You didn't have to work for it.
No,
you didn't have to work for it. And you're throwing it out there. You pop it once, they come. One smashes it, jumps, throws the bait. Popper hits the water over here. Another one hits it. Boom. You hooked up to that one. He throws it. Another one hits it. You'd hook 3 before you got one in the boat. It was crazy. And we get that occasionally. That was the best time it's ever happened. But yeah, the popper bite can be nuts down there.
Right. I mean, guys got to be coming down there to see you just with rooster on the mind. Sure.
People, it's roosterfish, cubera, snapper, and then occasionally you'll get somebody that just wants to catch marlin.
So let me rewind on that for a second, right? So, and just so the audience understands how this whole podcast came to be, right? So about a year, maybe a little bit over a year ago, right? I think you basically took social media by storm, I think, with catching that black marlin on the kayak, because that was a huge deal. And that was a nice size fish. And there's all this video of you getting dragged around by this huge ass fish, and everyone's hooting and hollering about it. I mean, and that's when my first reaction was, dude, come on the show, tell your story about it, right?
Yeah.
And I want you to tell your story about it. But I just thought that was the coolest thing, man. Really, I thought that was man, I want to hear straight from this dude's mouth, how this all came to be. And it's not an easy thing. I was just going through all your stuff today. I mean, when I saw you put up something about come down to Los Buzos, catch a marlin, but many people have, but only 2 have took it the whole way. And I thought that was man, that's really crazy. Only 2, but I understand why only 2. I mean, it's the hell of a thing to do on a kayak, and you're going to end up in some other country by the time you're done with that fish. But
yeah.
So that's how this podcast came to be. It's man, I was it was really, really cool. And I want to hear when you hooked up with this fish, I mean, take me through that. Yeah.
So it worked out so perfectly. We had I had Robert Field there. You might know him from YouTube. He's got a big YouTube page. He was there doing some filming for some groups that we had, because we had 2 full back-to-back groups. And this was the one day in between our group of clients that the guides could go out and fish for themselves.
And you've been a guide at Los Buzos for how long at this point?
What is it? I started in 2016.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So 7 years, something you've put your dues in that area at this point. Yeah.
But the one thing that really kept me there, because I did get the offer to go to FWC, but oh,
you did?
I did. While I was down there, and that I should
How's that?
rewind a little bit.
Yeah. How was that? I mean, getting that offer and that's
Well, it was
what you
a
set out
hard
to do.
decision.
Yeah,
right?
I would imagine it was.
Because I had spent some years training for it and going to school, and then we go on that trip to Panama. After that first group that I was talking about, we had a good time. People caught some fish, but it wasn't like we didn't have it dialed. Like we caught some roosters and some other good fish and stuff, but we didn't have it dialed. And I decided to stay an extra week after that. And the second day, I hooked a marlin. So this is like my third week there total, and I hook a marlin, and I'm out there by myself.
In 2016.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm out there by myself, just trying to get the lay of the land, finding more spots and stuff, right? Just trying to get more used to the area. And I've got a blue runner out behind me, and I hadn't even caught a big rooster fish by this time, right? And so I paddled off the beach. I'm only a mile, maybe a mile and a half off the shore, and my clicker starts going on my reel. Not fast, like a real slow hit.
Yeah.
And so I'm getting excited. I'm like, oh man, I got a rooster fish. You see me messing with. I wish I had my camera facing out, but I had my camera facing me, and you see me like fidgeting with my drag, making sure it's perfect, like getting excited for this rooster fish, and I'm just reeling. He's coming straight towards me. I'm like trying to catch up reel up the slack, and then it just stops, and then maybe 15 feet away from me, 500-pound marlin just like tries to jump. Like it was like, it's a big fish, right? And it didn't have any momentum. It was just like, I feel something in my mouth. And he starts to do like a half jump,
So
like a real lazy jump.
Like the head thing?
I'm like, oh crap. Like I start shaking, like, oh my God, like what am I doing?
Bet.
And then he sinks back down, and then he just beelines it straight offshore. And so like I wasn't really set up for him. I had an accurate 500 with like 40-pound mono, and I didn't have braid backing on it. I have it on all my reels now, but I didn't have enough line. Maybe a little bit of braid backing, and he's just booking it straight offshore. And I'm pedaling as fast as I can to keep up, because I know he's going to spool me if I can.
Is he doing that like that bull greyhound thing?
Yeah. He's, like he went.
That's
probably,
a beautiful thing to watch, though, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh man, I can't. I think about it every day. But yeah, man. So he booked it probably like 100 yards, and then he started doing that, and he's just like boom, 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 jumping, and I'm just pedaling as fast as I can. I got both thumbs.
You're pedaling.
Pinned. Yeah, I'm pedaling as fast as I can. Both thumbs pinned on the spool, and I'm like, they're burning my thumbs, and it's going out. And I'm yelling to my buddy who was back at the lodge on the radio. I'm like, Marlin on, Marlin on. Put the radio down, trying to catch up to this fish, and all I hear back on the radio is, I'm like, I don't know if he heard me. Like I don't know if he knows what's going on. Looking back, he did know. He could hear me clearly. I just couldn't hear him. But man, I'm just going offshore. I'm like, I don't care. Like I'm gonna land this fish. Right? Yeah. They can send a boat or something. And
taking a sleigh ride, like your shirt says.
Exactly. Yeah. And I was flying. And I wish I had a speedometer. I mean, on my GPS, I wasn't looking. But so he was taking me straight offshore, and for probably 5 minutes straight. And then it did spool me. Like it took me to the knot. Man. Thankfully, like it took me to the knot. And then it broke right at the bimini, like both of the braid lines. Okay. So I think he got me with the tail. Right. Not sure 100%, but man, there was like 5 minutes of just like flying offshore, and like it breaks off. I'm like, oh no. But then I'm like, I have to catch that fish. Right. So, and then the next week I get the offer to go to FWC. I'm like, and then that same week, wow. The owner's like, hey man, like if you wanna do this full time, the offer's open. Yeah. So I'm like, I'll go to Panama.
Wow, look at you. So, dude, if it wasn't for that fish, you probably would have taken that job.
Yeah.
I mean, it could have been a good chance. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, but
it's crazy how one fish can change so much.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that same week, like the next day, I went out and I caught a cubera. It was the first cubera that we'd ever caught from the kayaks, and I got a big AJ, and I ended up catching like 3 monster roosters. I'm like, this is the place. I'm gonna be here, and I ended up living there pretty much full time. I would come back for a couple weeks at a time, but about 5 years.
Yeah. But, you know, it's crazy. It's like imagine if you'd have taken that FWC job. Like, you'd totally be like thinking about that fish. Like all the time, man, I could be in Panama catching these fish.
And it was kind of always in the back of my mind too. It's like, if I lived in Panama and I learned Spanish and I get all the experience, I can move back and do that job even better than I could have before, right?
Right.
So I'm like, easy decision.
Well, how old are you now?
31.
Yes, dude, right call.
Yeah.
Totally the right call. All that other stuff would be waiting for you if you ever want to access it. You know what I mean?
That's always what I thought.
But
So I
especially
don't-
doing kayak, like you got to be like young and in shape. And I think,
Right.
you know
right.
what I mean?
Yeah, I'm starting to feel it now.
Are you?
yeah. When you spend all day in the water, like every day, like
Yeah.
yeah, I'm feeling it now.
Well, at least, well, I guess let me rephrase that. To do the type of kayak fishing you're doing down there, I would imagine there's very much a sport aspect
Absolutely.
to it, like an athletic aspect to it. Like maybe like if you're doing inshore kayak fishing, not as much. You know what I mean? There's still like you still feel it. I'm sure if you're going against current, you know what I mean? And you got it. You're like,
oh, that's the one thing I hate.
Yeah.
Current. I mean, wind and current. Oh, it's the worst. But like, I mean, if there's just wind, no current, it's okay. Wind and current. Oh man. But thankfully in that area, it's not. We don't have current like here. Like I used to fish the EKFT tournaments, the extreme kayak fishing tournaments. I'm sure you've heard about that.
For sure.
But yeah, a lot of times we'll have like 3
The
to 4
Joe
mile
Hector tournaments,
Yeah. Joe's an awesome guy. I love Joe.
Cool.
But here a lot of
That's
times
another guy I'd love to have on the show.
you should.
Yeah, I should reach out to
And
him.
he does shows all the time. Like he has his own
he's
show
got
with Nautical Ventures.
the Insider or the In Fisherman, or, right? Is that what it's called? The
Weekly
the one
Fisherman.
on the Weekly Fisherman.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure he'd do it. But a lot of times in Florida, you have like, or in this area, you have like pretty strong north current, like pretty consistently. So we when I used to guide out of here, you'd have to battle that a lot, or you would just like we'd launch at Boca and come out at Lake Worth or Boynton,
Right.
and then Uber back. And it was kind of a pain. But the nice thing about Panama is you really don't have to mess with current that often. Sometimes it comes through, but rarely is it over like 3 miles an hour. It's usually 0 or like 1.
Right.
So we have the lodge right on the water, and we'll just launch the boats launch the kayaks from the beach right in our backyard, and we paddle out a mile and a half, which is nothing.
Right.
And you're fishing pretty much the whole way out too. So it feels like you're really not doing that much work. And we've taken a lot of guys out that have never been in a kayak before and don't have much fishing experience in general.
Yeah.
Like total newbies, and day 2 they've got 40-pound rooster fish on their lap.
Nice.
Like we do that all the time. So it's not, and we make it pretty easy. Like if they get tired, we always have a boat out there too. Like we'll keep a panga out there. So if somebody gets tired, they need to take a break, they hop in a boat.
Dude, I saw this one video you posted. So what, you just gang all these kayaks up in a boat and like basically you launch from the beach? And is that something you do a lot?
So there's 2 different things that we do.
Okay.
Like for the most part, we just launch from the beach. Like we pull the kayaks down, jump in, they go through the surf, which there's like pretty much no surf on their surf.
Because that one video that you posted was really cool and really kind of showed the whole process, like with the waves coming in, how you got to time everything going in. And
I know
all
what
that.
you're talking about.
Yeah, so I was like, that was pretty cool that you posted that up because it gave like a good glimpse of that whole like get out process.
Yeah, and you got to know what you're doing.
Yeah,
if you're doing that,
yeah, definitely.
Because we'll get a big swell, and I know what video you're talking about. Like we'll get a big swell, and then it's dangerous to launch the kayaks from the beach. Like we don't let anybody do it.
Yeah, there was a heavy beach break right there.
Yeah,
for sure.
The nice thing is there's only one break, and it breaks right on the beach. So once you're past it, you don't have to worry about anything. But in that video, we're mothershipping people. So we put all the kayaks in the pangas, and we've got the pangas staged up right on the shoreline, and so we have to wait for enough water to come in to float the boat, and then we have everybody jump in and we push them off. And we have a tractor that pulls the pangas down, so we don't have to do like we can't keep the pangas in the bay.
Okay.
And there's no boat ramp or anything around, so we just drag the pangas down the beach with a tractor, turn the pangas in, point them towards the beach. Point them towards the offshore, and we'll get like 6 guys, and we'll just push it and launch it that way. That's kind of the only way that we were able to do it,
right?
Because there's no marinas. Like they call our area the port, even though it's just a beach, and it's protected by a reef line. So it's kind of like a natural marina.
That's pretty cool.
It's the perfect spot to have an operation like we got.
So, I mean, Los Buzos, I mean, is that like 100% a kayak fishing like resort?
No, it started out kind of like that. Like the owner's had it for 25 years or so, and he's always planned to create a marina there and do some bigger sport fishing kind of thing. But to kind of get into that, he brought us in to do the kayak thing. So he'd have I know he's planning on doing some more big sport fishing kind of things and that deal later. But yeah, for the most part, we're kayaks and pangas.
Okay.
But yeah, so well, usually when people come down to fish with us, they'll fish like 3 days in the kayak, and then they'll do a couple days in the panga too. So they get a little, they get to mix it up.
Gotcha. So, all right. So I'm like trying to track the timeline of all this, right?
Yeah, I know we're going all over the place.
No, it's all good. No, because I wanted it's good that we mentioned that when we did, because it kind of sets us up for like this other stuff too, right? Because you did the FAU fishing and you start guiding with your buddies, and you head down to Los Buzos like in 2016. And like, when did you really figure like, you're there for like how long? Like months at a time?
Yeah. So
right
after that, like right after our first trip
like
in
the season
2016,
like is like what, December starts?
It's pretty much year round.
Year round.
Yeah, year round season.
So how often are you going down there?
So I'm down there. After I made that decision to stay down there like full time, I made the decision like probably 2 weeks later after I got back from that trip, and then I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And I think I went back after, probably the same month. Like I made the decision, I moved there pretty quick.
Okay.
Quicker than I probably should have.
Right.
But after that, I was there for usually like 6 months at a time, and I'd come back for like 2 weeks.
Okay.
And that went on for 4 or 5 years.
Gotcha.
Until COVID.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess that did kind of change everything for everybody.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, big time.
So, all right, so I had COVID, then you came back.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Because they were talking about shutting down the airports and stuff. Like, if I needed to go home, I wouldn't be able to unless it was a humanitarian flight and all that kind of stuff. So I was like, I'm going to go. But, like, when I made the decision to come back home, I didn't think I was going to be here for, like, more than a month.
Right.
But then I ended up having to be here for a year or so, you know.
And then, so what did you do?
I was doing all kinds of stuff. I did a little bit of guiding. I did a little construction. Did a couple just random side jobs for a while. But as soon as I was able to get back, we got back to work, and we were even just we were running groups of like 2 and 3 guys.
Okay.
When our goal is to do like 10 or 12. But just to do it, you know.
Yeah.
I think, what was it? It was October. So they shut down in March, and we were able to get back to work in October.
Okay. In 2020.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. So that's cool that you were able to get back to work there. So now you're now but living here now.
Now I live, Central Florida. Yeah. And I just go back and forth. I've got a 10-month-old now.
You got the baby now. Yep.
Yep. So I love where I live right now, St. Cloud. And I think, what was it? Last year I was there for 10 or 12 weeks. This year I was only there for 4 weeks.
Okay.
But yeah, so now I just go back and forth.
Gotcha.
And they have a whole operation there. They're full time without me. The Dakota is awesome. The whole team there is really good. But yeah, so I'm there a lot less, but you catch just as many fish with them. Right.
And then, so you're there now for a number of years, been back and forth, and it leads you to this fish, right? To this black.
Right.
Right. And tell me about, like, more about how that came to be.
Yeah. So, yeah, we'll rewind. So it was right in between 2 full back-to-back weeks, and it was our only time for the guides to just go out and just have fun. Right. So it's me, one of our other guides, Derek at the time, and Robert, and it's just us 3 out there. And it takes about a mile to get to the spot where we really start fishing. And we get there right away. I catch a blue runner, like perfect size. And I put him on my hook, and I keep him right next to the boat. And I'm like, I'm going to try to catch another one for Robert or Derek. And I'm trying for like 10 minutes or so. I'm like, couldn't catch another one. Because we don't have a bait guy or anything like that. So we have to, if we're going out fishing,
you're fully self-sufficient.
We catch our own bait that day. So I catch a blue runner. I'm like, try to catch one for Robert. Spent like 10 minutes or so. I'm like, screw him. I'm going to go. I'm going to go out. Like, good luck. You can catch your own fish or catch your own bait. So I actually kept my bait close to me, and I paddle over some of our hot spots for roosters and cuberas because, by now I've caught hundreds of them, and like I want to catch a marlin because I know the marlin are a little bit deeper for the most part. Those blacks, we have like kind of an alley. We call it like the billfish alley, where once you're like 100 feet deep, you start to get more billfish, like sailfish. You get those big Pacific sails and black marlin.
You catching a lot of sails?
We don't catch a lot, but
Yeah.
we do get some. I think it's because we don't fish with like smaller baits. Like if we fished like live ballyhoo, sardines and stuff, I think we'd catch a lot more.
Sure.
But for the most part, we're using like big blue runners, bonitas, lifeline, yellowfin tunas and stuff like that. So I keep my bait next to me so doesn't get eaten by anything else, which could happen. Like I've had roosterfish come up and bump the side of my kayak and grab a blue runner. So I'm like trying to keep them as close to me as possible so nothing else eats them. And I get out to about 120 feet in this spot that we have, one of our favorite spots.
So you're targeting a big billfish.
Yeah. Because I don't get that many opportunities to do it. Like if I'm fishing with a group, we're going for cuberas and roosters for the most part, and you never know when a marlin will come hit though. Like because it's kind of the same area.
Yeah.
But just you have a better shot at catching a billfish a little bit deeper off of the main rocks. But like I've seen marlin come in 40 feet, and like I've seen the biggest marlin I've ever seen, probably 1,000 pounds, jump right in front of me in 40 foot of water.
Really?
Yeah. Never the blues. The blues are always way off, but blacks are always in like usually 70 to 200 is where we see the most of them. The majority of them. But yeah.
Wouldn't that be nice, Nick, to have big marlin in 70 to 200 consistently?
Yeah. You can see them jumping from the beach.
That's great.
So yeah, it's the spot that I was at maybe takes 30 minutes to paddle from shore. It's 2 miles offshore.
Okay.
So I'm sitting in this spot. It's a little rock pile, and it holds a lot of grouper and big corvinas and stuff like that. But for whatever reason, the billfish love it too. So I'm sitting there, and we don't have much current. It's like half a mile an hour current, and I got my bait maybe 50 yards behind me, and it's just sitting there. Right. And I pull out my phone and I'm like answering emails. I'm like booking people and just like sitting there, and probably 10 minutes later, line is just ripping, my clicker's
so
like
different than the other one.
Way different. Yeah. Way different. Just line screaming out of it. I'm like, oh crap! Like I'm fiddling with my rod and my phone, and I throw the phone down, and I turn around and I grab my rod, and by this time it had slowed, like the clicking had slowed down, but the fish is jumping towards me. So I turn around, I'm like, and so like I flip the drag up, and I'm like trying to catch up the line, and I see him coming straight at me. I'm like, oh, like this thing's gonna run me over. Right? So I'm like
he knows, like it's you, dude. I'm coming for you.
Yeah, and I got my. Thankfully, the GoPro caught it, but like I had my GoPro boom like in front of my legs, and I'm like I didn't have time to swing it out, and I'm pedaling as fast as I can, and my boom with the camera is like this, like. And thank God for that stabilization on the GoPro, because you can't even tell. Like this camera's going like this, but it catches the marlin coming straight at me.
Yeah,
it's a little grainy, but in the video it looked cool. But so I'm like pedaling my ass off trying to get out of this thing's way, and it's still jumping. It does like a half circle, and then it's like jumping straight towards me. And then once it gets like, I don't know, 20 yards away, it dives straight under me, goes straight offshore just like that first one, just beelining it straight off.
Wow. Is he dragging you now?
He's dragging me. But this time I'm equipped, right? I had my buddy from Adrenaline Custom Rods. He's local here too. He made me a big game, like heavy live bait rod, and I've got an Accurate 1000 2-speed. So it's got. So
you don't have the 5,000.
No, I don't have that 500 anymore. I'm ready for them. Like I've got a 100-pound mono. It's got like 600 yards of braid backing on it. I'm like I'm not worried now. So I'm not cranking it. He's flying offshore. He's running offshore. And I call on the radio. I'm like, Marlin on. Put it down. Like trying to catch up. And then on the radio, you just hear, Marlin? Hooked up? I'm like, got it. Marlin on. And then again, static. Because the other guy that was out, or the other couple guys that were with me, were probably, one of them was probably a mile in the other direction. And so he could kind of hear me, but I couldn't hear him. And then one of our other guides, Darrett, I could hear him. So I was like trying to relay. I'm like, Darrett, like Marlin, I'm southwest of Aka, headed straight offshore. I'm in, like, it's dropping off fast now. So like I'm hooked up for maybe 5 minutes by now, and we're already 1,000 feet because there's a ledge there that just drops off, like super deep.
Okay.
So I'm just flying offshore. I'm like 1,000 feet, like 2 miles off Aka, which is a rock there. It's our landmark.
Okay.
And I'm like, does Robert know? He's like, I don't know. You'll see it in the video. Like, we couldn't really talk to each other. He's like, I don't know. I'm going to try to get him. I was like trying to get him to relay messages back to home.
Is this 21 or 22?
19.
Oh, it's 19.
Yeah.
Oh, so this is before the COVID thing. Oh,
this is right before. Yeah, right before COVID. Right before COVID. So I'm like trying to relay it, and then I'm like, whatever. So I have my phone, and we still have signal out there. Like, it's like a miracle that we have signal there. But I pull out my phone. I'm like, I'm texting the owner, and I'm texting a couple of guys back at the lodge. I'm like, hey, Marlin on, headed offshore. I'm not gonna have signal for much longer. Send a boat. And so they get a panga ready on the beach. They're throwing a bunch of gear in it, and then they end up the boat gets launched, and they pick up Derek and Robert. And Robert, being the YouTuber, he's got all this camera gear.
So he's ready.
So
you're in the most ideal circumstance.
Super ideal. Like, he's an incredible photographer, like editor, everything.
The cameraman's there.
Yeah. I got like the hookup on my camera, and then everything else. Like he's got it. He's
all
in the boat.
Hot girls are watching me.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was super fun. So he gets out. Maybe the boat caught up to me probably 30 minutes into the fight, and so we're way offshore. We're probably 5 miles offshore by then. And he's just going offshore. As soon as they got it had been jumping around, like doing the greyhounding thing for a while.
So once you hook up, are these guys following you out there though, right?
Yeah.
Like,
so
someone's jumping on the boat for like an assist, like an emergency assist.
Right. So the boat gets launched just with one of the local panga captains, right?
Okay.
And then he picks up Robert, who's in the kayak.
Yeah.
And he picks up Derek, who's also in the kayak. So the boat has 2 kayaks.
Yeah. Sorry, I lost my place there for a second. So if you had already mentioned that,
I'm
I
probably
apologize.
going too fast.
No, not at all. You're excited. So am I.
Okay, yeah. So the panga has the captain, and then it has Robert with the camera, and then our other guy Derek.
Right.
So and they're catching up to me. So I was able to relay my position, and they were able to find me.
Okay.
And
now I have my bearings.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
And then and so we're both just going offshore. They're following me. They're getting shots of me, and it had been jumping all over the place. But by the time the panga caught up, it wasn't doing a whole lot. So you'll see in the video, it's like Robert's like picking up trash and stuff. They're doing all kinds of other stuff just because nothing's happening. I'm just getting pulled offshore. Yeah. And so it doesn't jump for 2 more hours. And it's just digging. Like, it's not that far away, maybe 40 or 50 feet. It was just hugging. Okay. Down deep, just slowly paddling offshore. I'm like trying to yank on it, like trying to get it to, get pissed off and come up and jump. And just nothing's happening. And for the longest time, I think it was like 2 or 3 hours, doesn't jump. And then all of a sudden, it starts to change. I see the line start coming up. I'm like, Robert, like, it's about to jump. Jumps once, like, beautiful jump, doesn't get it because it was so much time. I'm like, oh my god, like this thing, it was like the perfect opportunity to get this fish. This fish breaks off and we missed it. I'm like, I'm gonna be so pissed. Right. But thankfully it didn't come off. But I was like, I'm still stressed, right? Because if it got off, that'd be cool. That'd be okay with me. But I just want to make sure that somebody, like, there's a good picture and some good video, because like this situation is like ideal for that. Right. So I'm like, oh man, like stress. I'm like, be ready for the next one. Right? Yelling at him. But so then they get a little closer.
You're like, dude, you're supposed to be like the best YouTuber in the world. Like, what is this? Well, you missed that.
He was actually like texting Morris, or the owner, with the Garmin InReach, like making sure that everything was safe. Right. So I can't get mad at him. Right. But I want to make sure we get this shot right. So I'm telling him, like, you can get a little closer, be ready for the next one. And so maybe 30 more minutes, and then I decided to turn my kayak perpendicular to them, right? Because I got on the kayaks we're using now, they're Hobie Outbacks, right? So you got the Mirage Drive and you got the rudder in the back. They're pretty big. So if I turn it sideways, it puts a whole lot more pressure on that fish. And I realize every time I do that, it gets angry and he'll come up and he'll start jumping. Yeah. And then when he jumps, he's wearing himself out. And if he's just hugging down 40 feet, he's in cool water. He's just cruising. He's just pulling me around, and it's not doing anything to tire him out or anything. Right. So I figured out that if I just turn perpendicular, he'll get pissed off. He'll run up to the surface and he'll start jumping. And so I kept doing that, and it kept jumping, and we were getting all kinds of great footage. He's jumping all over the place.
And those are the shots that everyone saw. Yeah. I mean, is that pretty much like? That's pretty much like for big game fish like that. Like, you probably wouldn't want to be on any other kayak at that point, right? I mean, that would probably.
There's only a select few kayaks I would want to do that in, and the Hobies. those we have the 2018 Hobie is the best offshore boat best offshore kayak that they've ever made.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was happy to be in that boat. So yeah,
so many things have to line up, I think, in that scenario.
Right. And that's
let's say luck is merely when preparation meets opportunity, right? Yeah.
Right.
For the most part, so it sounds like you went in there with a game plan in mind. You're like you're ready, equipped, experienced, like the whole thing, and this is great. And I love hearing that because you always hate like saying, man, like the first story,
right?
Like if that was the only shot you ever had, you know what I mean? You hate like, oh, okay, yeah, it's a cool story, man, but if only you would have been prepared. Yeah, if only. But this is the if only.
Yeah. But then we put a few more years into it, and then made it happen, right? But and I had the right rig, the right rod reel. I made a extra thicker than normal rig than I would typically have for roosters and bears and all that. Bigger hook, 13-0 circle. But yeah, so we were prepared and we did everything perfect. But yeah, so in the end, it took we ended up 12 miles offshore. It was 5 hours, and it had gotten pretty rough at the end of it. It was it was like probably 6-footers and breakers, like white caps all over the place. You see at the end of the video, you see me like crest over a breaker out there, and it takes my cooler off the kayak.
Yep.
But yeah, it was getting sporty. But so we had all the shots that we wanted. We didn't want to tire out the fish. Like if you fight it long enough to like actually grab the marlin from the kayak, like you killed the fish, and there's no reason to do that. So it was still like full color, like plenty of energy. So we got all the content we could ever imagine. Sun's starting to go down a little bit too. We're like, all right, I'm just gonna jump in the boat.
Yeah.
And we're gonna land them in the boat, revive them, and then we're gonna go home. So that's what we ended up doing. But it was sketchy because those pangas are not that big. The ones that we were using at the time, because they weren't the ones that the panga that got sent out wasn't the typical one that we normally use. Just a little bit smaller one. We got 3 kayaks in the front, which take up 80% of the room in the panga, and then we got 4 guys in the back. Yeah. So there's 0 room in this panga, and we're going up in 6-foot seas. We're taking water over the bow a little bit, so I give the rod to Robert because I'm tired by that time. He's cranking on it, and we get it up to the boat, and I'm on the wire, so I had some gloves with me. We had a whole Marlin kit, like we're always ready for any that kind of situation. So I had some wiring gloves, and I pull him up. We get him next to the boat. Is he pretty
tired at this point, or is he still kind of?
Oh, he's
still kind of raising himself a little bit.
He kept jumping, like when I gave him to Robert, like he was jumping all over the place and taking like beeline in it. But so we just
so still green.
Oh, still full green, fully green. Yeah, because when he was pulling the kayak, he's like it's not tiring him out.
Yeah, that's
he's
just making him bored. Yeah,
it's like
bored and annoyed.
Exactly,
Yeah.
like it was not tiring him out. So, but the jumps would and whatever. But so I give the rod to Robert, and he's like, "Oh man, like, yeah, this is a strong fish." And it's still taking line and all that. So we just I hammer the drag down, and I'm like, "Just get this fish in because we got to go home." And so he's cranking on. It's got 2-speed on there, so he's cranking. And we're running the boat up to him, and we get him. I get the leader, and I'm pulling him up, and I get him right next to the boat, and then he ends up diving it again. So I just wrapped the line, put it against the gunnel, and just broke him off.
Yeah.
So it broke right at the knot. So and we could see where the hook was. The hook was right in the corner of the mouth. So all good. Like little moment of relief.
Wow.
And then the captain's like, "We don't have much gas."
Oh no.
I'm like, come on. You're telling me this now?
Yeah.
So we're 12 miles out, and we don't have enough gas to get back for sure. And it's sun's starting to go down, right? So the sun's already cresting for the most part, and so we're going back, and we can't. By this time, we're out of range from the radio, but we have that in reach. So we're texting the lodge owner, like, we don't have enough gas to get back. Send another boat, and he's like, send me your position. And so we're sending him our position. He's trying to teach the other panga captain how to go to our coordinates.
Oh no!
Right? But we're also moving too, because we're putting back.
Right.
And so it was a miracle that we really got back in
It's a
in
good
time.
thing you're in a place where there's not a lot of current.
Right. So yeah, we could have made it within maybe a mile.
Okay.
But yeah, so we can see shore, and there's mountains and stuff, so we know where to go. But and there's a couple other things maybe we could have done if they didn't have another boat, right? But So we
things you don't want to do at night.
Right. I don't want to have to pull this boat and with the kayak, which I've done in the past. But so he sends this other Panga captain, and he's looking for us, and then we start to get into radio contact with him, like after maybe 20 minutes after he launched. So we're both like probably 10 miles offshore at this point, trying to talk to each other.
Right.
The other Panga captain, and out of nowhere, a sailboat appears, and like he had been sailing the coast or whatever, and we hadn't seen it until then. And we're like, we're just gonna go to the sailboat. I'm like, go to the sailboat, Barero, and so he's like, oh, see, like, because everybody can see the sailboat because it's big, right?
Right.
So thank God that sailboat was there, or else he might not have been able to see us. And then as soon as we like we're kind of hanging out by that sailboat for a little while, and then we see him like just crest over this breaker, like in the sunset, and we're like, oh, thank God, there he is.
Yeah, nice.
And then he hands us a bunch of gas, and we refuel, and we get back to the beach, and it's pitch black.
Pitch black.
Yeah.
What a day.
It was an epic day.
Wow. So the total flight time was what you said, 5.5 hours?
About 5 hours. Yeah, 5-6 hours, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
And did you get an idea how big the fish is?
We guessed it. We guessed 500 pounds.
500 pounds.
It's kind of hard to say. Like I haven't caught that many marlin, so it's hard for me to say. And we didn't, put it on a scale. And I've never seen a marlin get weighed or put on a scale or anything like that. So that's what we guessed. And then we sent it to a couple other captains. Like we sent it to the owner had a couple other friends that are big time marlin
You got all
captains.
the footage. They could probably guess it.
Yeah. And then so like they all came together. They came to a consensus, and they all guessed the same 500 pounds. So
yeah.
That's what I go with.
So I got a question, because my knowledge on kayak fishing is very limited. Has there been a bigger marlin caught from kayak before?
So the biggest one up until that was in Hawaii. The Hawaiian guy caught it. I wish I could remember his name, but they would catch some out of Hawaii. I think it was like 200 something pounds. They killed it and they brought it back and weighed it.
Okay.
But they catch a decent amount of blues over there, but I think they're all like sub 200 for the most part, sub 300.
Okay.
And then they do catch some off of New Zealand, blacks, but I've never seen one bigger than like 200 pounds. Like they'll catch them pretty consistently from what I can tell. And there's one guy there that catches them all the time, and he'll pull them up onto his kayak, and they're always like 4 or 5 foot long.
Yeah, the small males kind of thing. Yeah. So it could be said that you have probably caught the largest marlin, black marlin especially, right, from kayak that's been documented.
Right. Yeah. That's what I tell people. I say the biggest game fish ever landed from a kayak, because there's one guy.
I guess it would. Yeah, it could be a blanket category at that point, right?
Yeah. Because the only thing that somebody has me on is Joel Abramson. He's caught a Greenland shark in Sweden, I think, and it's like 1,500 pounds or something crazy. So he's got me on the biggest fish from the kayak.
Call that guy.
But that guy's gnarly. He posts on Instagram. He's got this huge like dreadlock beard, and it's always got icicles hanging off of it and stuff. And he's out there catching giant muskies and all kinds of stuff. And frozen
what kind
weather.
Of shark?
Greenland shark.
Oh, Greenland shark. Yeah.
So he's got the biggest fish, but I got the biggest game fish.
Yeah, that's not a game fish.
Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for telling that to us.
Yeah, of course.
In great length. I mean, I love hearing stories like that. I mean, and just the whole progression of, how it all came to be, and so, I mean, are you going to be going for more?
Yeah. Like people always ask me, like, what's the next thing?
Right. More of that.
More. Yeah. I want to get a blue, because I haven't caught a blue from the kayak.
Yeah.
Which would be super cool. So we might end up going to like the fads or something like in the Panhandle, or maybe out. There's some fads out in Costa Rica that my buddy wants to go to, and then out of California, one of my buddies wants me to go out and catch big blue fins out of the kayak, which would be cool.
Okay.
But there's nothing else really achievable from like launching from the beach.
Yeah.
Like maybe off of like Massachusetts, like you can launch from the beach and get a big bluefin doing that, but there's also great whites, and I'm not super excited about being in the water with great whites.
That's true. That's it's a little bit of a deterrent.
Yeah.
Oh, did you see today? I don't know if you did see or not, like that. There is a saltwater crocodile right here off the Pompano Beach Pier.
Oh yeah.
Like hanging out, like, and everyone was like freaking out and like putting it all over like social, like, oh my
Oh,
god, I almost walked over there and like just to check it out.
Yeah.
But man, can you imagine like just chilling in the water, like having a beer, like in like 3-4 feet of water, and like that thing comes up and taps you on the shoulder. You're like,
Hey.
like, whoa, what? Freaking
No,
saltwater
yeah.
crocodile?
If he's sneaking up on you, he's got different. Yeah, he's got a different idea in his mind.
Hey, buddy,
He's hungry.
you got another beer for me?
Oh yeah, I would not want to see that in the water.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that with the great whites up there. That would be, yeah.
I remember I took a guy fishing off of Boynton on a kayak charter, and he was telling me his buddy was on the news because his buddy got like skied on by a great white. Like he was,
Really?
they were out there fishing they're off of California, and he said they were just talking. He said they were just talking like side by side, and then all of a sudden his buddy's 10 feet in the air, and there's a great white in the air too. And
Come on.
no, in the kayak, yeah. Because I was telling him, I'm like, yeah, I don't want to go over there like where the great whites are, and he's like, yeah, but they really don't bother you that much. He's like, sometimes people will get like the kayaks get bit, and like we always just stuff our kayaks with pool noodles and foam and stuff in case that happens. I'm like, so what you're telling me it does happen though? Because everybody does that. Like, you're not winning this argument. Right?
Oh my god! Well,
and then he tells me that story.
You really don't have that problem down there.
No.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
There's not really a lot of sharks and stuff that in that area that I mean, you got your spinners and stuff that are offshore.
You got black tips and like, but yeah, the biggest strike you ever see is a black tip.
Yeah.
Like that's another great thing about that area is because like you rarely get sharked. Like if something eats your
Costa
your tuna,
Rica's the same way. There's just not a lot of sharks around.
If something eats your tuna or your AJ that you're bringing up, it's probably a cubera. Like the cuberas are the tax man down by us.
Right.
Like or you'll catch another like there's a bunch of different types of
the teeth
snapper,
on
like a
those
yellow
things are,
snapper, like
brutal.
Yeah, they attack everything. But
so this dude got skied on by a great white?
Yeah. So thankfully he didn't get hurt. Apparently, he's his buddy. The guy was telling me the story is so funny. He's like, yeah, we were just talking, and all of a sudden he's 10 feet in the air, and there's a great white in the air too. And kayak lands upside down. He lands in the water next to it, and
that's an interesting way to put it. He's 10 foot in the air, and the great white's 10 foot in the air too.
Yeah,
it's like,
not
what?
ideal. So he's so he paddles over to the guy, helps him get the kayak flipped back over, and apparently it's got a big hole in it, it's sinking. And I guess there was another boat in the area, and they called the boat over. And thankfully, I guess the shark bit the kayak, did his thing,
right?
And then he left. Thankfully, or else the guy was in the water. It sounds like for a while, and it could have came back and ate him if it wanted to, I guess. But yeah, they flagged a boat down. The boat came and picked both kayaks up and took them back. And there's this is probably 15 years ago or so. But there was a news story about it, and they took pictures of the kayak, and you can see just like huge gouges in the bottom of the kayak.
And this is in Massachusetts or
No,
California?
this is in California.
California.
Yeah, that was California.
Wow.
Yeah. San Diego, I think.
You ever have any problems like when you're fishing off here?
Alpha here, yeah.
Yeah, off here you see them, right?
Yeah, man. Well, I used to go take people to the sky cliff.
Yeah.
And it used to be a amazing spot. Like we caught, we were in the kayaks and catching blacks and gags and muttons all the time, like jigging AJs up, and then it just came to a point where they were all getting eaten. Like I'd take somebody there, and you're hooking fish like crazy, but you can't get them up.
Yeah.
And whether it's Goliaths or the sharks, you couldn't land. It came to a point where you couldn't land anything.
I mean, you don't really drag your fish in. I guess if you're catching a big enough fish, you don't really have a choice.
What do you mean, like to bring them back to shore?
Like dragging any off your kayak.
Oh no, so
keep
you
them
can
in the kayak.
Yeah. So you can actually keep a solid amount of fish in the kayak. They make specialized fish bags.
Okay.
That'll go on the bow.
Right.
And I brought 100 pounds of fish back to the beach. In Panama, we consistently catch big broomtail grouper for a good example, and they get we'll consistently catch them 50 pounds, and we can put them in that cooler, and it just rests on the bow. But now we have pangas out there. We can just give our fish to the pangas. But when we were off of Florida, I'd load it full of tunas and black fins and dolphin, and you can bring a solid amount of fish back in the kayak. You don't have to put them on a stringer, and I would never do that out there.
Yeah, that's
asking for a shark.
Well, because the only reason I bring that up is I always imagine especially off here, because I know how bad it is. offshore here, when you start getting into like 100 to 200 and everything, it's like that's when you're fishing here, it's always got to be like on your mind. Like my head would be on like a swivel like the whole time we're out there.
We're never like they never really bother you. Like
right.
like I've had one time where a bull shark came up and hit the kayak, but it was because he was chasing a school of Jack Crevalles. The Jack Crevalles saw me
by accident.
Got hit by accident. So like the Jacks kind of did it to me, I guess, because they saw me and they were like trying to take cover under me, and there was like probably an 8-foot bull, and he was on him, and his dorsal just slams the side of my kayak, and it happened quick too. Like I was standing up, like looking around, like we were on the flats, like in Port St. Lucie, we're looking for trout and redfish. All of a sudden, I'm like, oh, look at all the Jacks. Jacks come to me, huge bull shark, bam, hits the side of the kayak, almost knocked me in the water, but. That's the only time I've really ever been like touched by a shark in the kayak.
So
but
like
I've been circled 100 times by hammerheads. The hammerhead's super curious. Like they'll come up to you and just do circles, and they'll look like aggressive, but they've never done anything. But yeah, black tips never get real close. Like I've had some sandbars get up real close to me, but never had any issues with sharks. But one of the cool things about down in Panama is we have a lot of whale sharks. The whale sharks will come right up to you. They're super curious.
Really?
And a couple times they've come up under the kayakers and lifted them out of the water. So they're like the guests are out there like, there's a whale shark around here. He's like, I'm on top of it. He's calling in the radio, and like because they have no predators, right?
It's an alien ship.
So they literally lifted him out of the water. I've jumped in and swam with him a few times and like grabbed the dorsal fin, and it's so cool.
You see him a lot?
Not a ton. But like one day we went out and we saw 10 in one day in just the real small area in our backyard.
Right.
So they were just, for whatever reason, the current came through. It was a little different current, like colder water came through, and we were seeing all kinds of plankton. We actually saw a sea lion that day, which we never see, never see. And all of a sudden there's a sea lion. But so yeah, it was this weird current that came through, and there was 10 of them right in this small area. But yeah, we'll usually see maybe 20 of them a year, something like that. On average. You never really guarantee. Usually drier season like February, March, April, you see more. But one will show up in the rainy season too, like randomly.
Yeah.
But yeah, last time I was down there, what was it? July. I saw one. That was the last time I was in Panama, and one came up, big one.
Yeah.
They're huge. What? One of our kayakers snagged one on accident. The funniest thing.
A whale shark?
Yeah. It swam into his live bait line.
Right. And
this day, it was a similar day. It was like this dirty, like cold water current, so you couldn't see in the water like at all. And he's calling over the radio. He's like, I'm hooked up. And I look over and he's doubled over. And he's howling. And I'm like,
oh my God.
Man. I'm like, yeah, man, that's gonna be a big rooster fish. So I'm in the boat. So I'm like, we motor over to him and I'm filming him. And I'm like, man, this is a big one. He's cruising, right? And it's just like not super fast, but you can tell it's just heavy. And so I'm following for a little bit. I'm like, man, this is gonna be a big fish. And then he's like slowly gaining, and all of a sudden, right under his boat, this is 40 feet long.
Gaining.
40 feet gaining. Yeah, gaining.
I wonder if the whale shark would even feel that.
No, that has no idea.
Yeah,
it has no idea.
Like, this probably feels like some weight on me. Like, what the heck is that attached to me?
Yeah, exactly. barely that too. Like, so I'm like, oh my God. And it's like, it almost came up right under him too, but it was maybe 5 feet under the water, and it's 6 feet long, 6 times his size.
Yeah.
Way more than 1,000 pounds. They're 40-foot full-grown whale shark. And I'm like, oh my God, like it's a massive whale shark. And he's like, oh my God, he's like, jump in. Like, what do I do? I'm like, I don't know what you do. And then it dives, it starts diving, and he's like, he's putting up the drag, and he's like trying to stop it. I'm like, you might as well just put that thing in free spool. You're not doing anything.
Seriously.
And then so one of our other clients was hooked up to an actual rooster fish, and I ended up, I'm like, just. I was like, just free spool it, try to wiggle him, see if the hook will fall out or something. And I loop back, and I helped this other guy that was hooked up, but it ended up just coming off. So
yeah,
thankfully there's no line on him or anything like that. So which is always what we hope for.
Yeah.
But yeah, he went on a hell of a sleigh ride, and he's got the record for the biggest shark ever.
That's awesome.
at our lodge for sure. Thankfully, it wasn't
his picture's up on the wall.
yeah.
Whale shark slayer.
Yeah, it was wild.
the sport of kayak fishing has probably grown immensely since you started doing it.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, because it seems like you've been doing it since it was ever really invented, but
Yeah. We had one of the
invented, but
we had one of the first model Hobies. I think I was in like 6th grade when my dad got a tandem
right.
Hobie. And
So you did the
pedal
whole
drive.
kayak thing with your dad.
Yeah, that's how I started.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so we got a tandem so that
That's
we could
awesome.
so me and my brother could fish too, but it ended up being mostly my dad just pedaling me around in the flats and casting the mangroves and stuff.
So this
for the
this
longest
is
time.
really what you know is fishing, like for the most part, and fishing out of a kayak. That's really cool.
Yeah. It was an awesome way to grow up. I mean, we used to travel all around Florida. Like one summer we just did like this Florida tour and we hit like everywhere you could. Like we went to mostly inshore areas. Like we went to the Keys, we went to Chokoloskee, we went to Mount Lachey, went up to the Panhandle. We hit all these areas and like just fished for like the entire summer. So
Nice.
it was super fun. But yeah, the offshore thing really started when I went to college. But he had when I was growing up, he had a Grady White, and we used to go out and fish tournaments and stuff when I was still in middle school, and did pretty well doing that. Like I won juniors in a couple of the tournaments. And,
oh, nice.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, as I was saying earlier, like you do all kinds of other fishing too.
Yeah.
I mean, which is outstanding. But I love like hearing that your roots are based like that. And
yeah.
You know, that's really cool because you don't hear that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You really don't. You know, how someone, especially like I guess that's kind of what I was getting at. You know, with you must have seen it grow so much in that time and the development, because you don't really hear a lot of stories like you who actually went 6th grade and been doing it for that long. And more often, the guys that are kayak fishing, you hear be like, "Oh, I picked it up 4 years ago, or I picked it up maybe 10 years ago." You know, even.
Right.
But
yeah, it's
so how much has that
boomed.
changed for you, seeing it change for everybody else? It's been interesting to see from your perspective. Dude, this is old hat for me, but it's like all new for everybody else.
It's really cool just seeing how many so many more products are out there. There used to just be like a handful. Like we would go out, like we had our kayaks.
Yeah.
Nothing else. Like we'd have no electronics. No, like we had buckets for live wells, and like we would go out to where we knew like the drop off was, or like we'd like bare minimum gear. Like we'd go up like troll the beach and catch a blue runner, and then we would just like slow troll offshore until we caught a fish, and then we'd go home. Like but we were catching big fish too. Like when we started off, like no electronics, anything like that, and we're still catching sailfish and AJs and big kings and stuff. Like it was really cool. But it like the kayak thing, like it was really cool to me because like you didn't have to have a ton of money to do it. Like you could load the kayak up, launch from the beach. You're not paying for gas. You don't have a big boat payment, but you're still going off catching big pelagics. Like I couldn't tell you how many times I went back to the boat ramp.
Right.
Full bag of fish, full bag of mahi, blackfin tunas, like all kinds of fish. And there's a guy like pulling this Grady White out of the boat ramp, and he's like where were those at? You know, like,
yep.
I'm not gonna tell you.
Yeah, I'm not gonna tell you.
He's like, you want to trade? I'm like, yeah. But yeah, so many times, and it's super effective too. You know, like you're not making much noise. Like I remember a lot of times, like we'd be the first ones of the day to hit a wreck, and like me and my buddy, we would go off, like say we're jigging a skycliff or jigging some wrecks off of Boca, and we're catching fish like nonstop. We get there, we pull up, we're catching muttons, we're catching kings, we're catching AJs. And then a boat pulls up, and then the bite just dies. Like, like you catch some fish, but like it's nowhere near. Like they hear that motor, and the fish, they start the fish you're catching starts to die down a little bit, and then the sharks show up too. Like the sharks know the noise of the boat.
That could be why the fish are leaving too. Yeah. They sense that the sharks are showing up.
That could be too. But yeah, like the sharks are like they're like trained to the noise of the motor. Yeah. Because they know that boat's going to start catching fish, and then they got an easy meal.
Yeah, for sure. Feeding time.
Yeah.
And that noise means that's the dinner bell.
Yeah, exactly.
That prop.
So then we just leave and go to a different wreck. But yeah, like especially, and you're able to fish like pinpoint spots very easily too, because like you got your fish finder in front of you, you got your pedal drive, and you got your rod, right? And you're constantly looking at your fish finder. You don't have to go back to the helm, and like if you're fishing in a boat, like you look at the fish finder, you get to the spot, and I mean it's different if you have a captain that's like keeping you on the spot, right? Or now they got spot lock trolling motors, but you're able to get to this spot and move around and like pinpoint the area that has the most fish, or pinpoint the side of the wreck that you want to fish, and like you're able to stay right on it, jig, or you're dropping dead baits or whatever. But it's just a really easy way to stay exactly where you are and fish it, the way that you want. And you don't have you don't have to worry about where the motor is. You don't have to worry about where the prop is. You got a bunch of other guys on the boat that might not agree on the way they want to fish that day, right? You're on your own. You make your own decisions, and it's just up to you if you catch the fish, which I love.
Yeah.
You don't have to rely on anybody, and you're not having to, deal with. I mean, if somebody wants to catch a kingfish or somebody wants to catch a bottom fish, right? Like I'd rather go catch muttons than go catch sailfish, right?
Sure.
I go out with a buddy. He's like, "Yeah, I want to go catch sailfish." Go, all right. I'm going to sit here and catch muttons. Like you don't have to.
I think
it's a one-man show.
I think
for the
that's
most part.
one of the nice things. I mean, I'm sure Panama's got its own joys and treasures and everything, but I always think that's one of the cool things about here is you're very in close proximity of doing a bunch of different types of fishing.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah.
It probably lends itself to kayak fishing great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I mean, so it's all that like kind of variety of fishing that you can do it here in Florida that really helped me, kind of develop that fishery in Los Buzos.
Yeah.
Like to the maximum. Like we catch absolutely everything. And
That's
and
great.
we're teaching the locals how to fish, and we're catching fish that they didn't know they had, and techniques that they didn't ever know about in the past, so the cool thing about that area is that there's no other traffic. There's a couple just like small panga operations,
right?
But like that area is so prime because like I'm sure you know Tropic Star.
Mm-hmm.
So there's Tropic Star and on the opposite side of us is Sebaco Bay, and they kind of all fish the same type of area that we're on. Like there's this big ledge, and they like Tropic Star has to run like 50 miles to get out to that area that we kind of fished, the similar type of area, and like it's in our backyard.
Right.
So like we can launch the kayaks and fish the same type of area that they run 50 miles to get to.
What's the name of that? Was it Hannibal Bank?
Yeah, they fish Hannibal Bank.
Yeah, right.
And yeah. So like we can't fish Hannibal Bank, but it's that same. Like if you look on Google Maps and you see our area, you'll see that ledge just connects.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually go back and take a look at it. I encourage anyone listening to the show to do the same. It'd be kind of cool. So
exactly, yeah. Just type in Los Buzos Resort, and you'll see like just zoom in a little bit to where you see those contours, and it's wild. Like you'll see like it's the southern tip of Panama right there, and right there just like there's some spots just offshore. I mean, just down the coast from us, maybe a 20-minute boat ride.
Mm-hmm.
If you go off the shore, less than 3 miles, you're in 6,000 feet.
Okay, wow.
It's a crazy drop.
That is a drop.
Yeah.
That is a crazy drop. Wow. When are you heading back?
My next trip is in December, so it's going to be a while.
Okay.
But yeah, so I got there's one spot left. If anybody's listening, like they can come on a trip. There's one spot left for one of my weeks. But Robert's going back. And the lodge is open year round. It's seasonal.
Okay.
It's not seasonal, so we're open. Fishing is incredible all year long. Rooster fish are always there. Cuberas are always there. Marlin are they're kind of hit and miss.
Right.
I would say the best time of year is December, which is a big part of the reason I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
But we also catch them. We've caught them in June. The biggest one I've ever seen got caught in September. The first one I hooked was January. So like they are sporadic, but we had 3 kayakers hook up. All three hooked up in 2 days, in a week in December. So like I'd say probably 20 or 25 kayakers have hooked marlin.
Yeah.
But like we said in the beginning, it's just me and Scott that landed them.
You got me a little jacked up about that.
Yeah, I mean,
might have to take that last spot.
Come on down, and it's super affordable too. It's $2,500 for a week. You get 5 days of fishing, 6 nights lodging, all your meals. We have a chef that cooks every day.
$2,500 all inclusive.
All inclusive.
Wow,
yeah,
that's not bad.
Yeah, and your all you can drink beer every night too. No extra, and there's a bunch of extra like upgrades and stuff that you can do. But if you want to do like the best trip possible on a budget, $2,500.
Okay.
And it's an easy flight too, and travel to Panama it's super easy, and it's not far.
It's only like a 2-hour flight down there.
2 hours flight from Fort Lauderdale, And I mean, I get round trip tickets for $300, $400 sometimes.
That's good.
So
that's great.
Yeah, and it's a super safe area. Like some people get nervous about traveling into Latin America, but
yeah,
like Panama's beautiful, and super safe. No worries.
You're guiding here in Florida too?
Not so much.
As much, right?
I'm starting some things potentially. But yeah, for the most part, I'm focused on the nautical venture, doing nautical ventures and Los Buzos.
Nice.
But yeah, so
very cool, man.
Staying busy still though.
Yeah, I want to thank you so much for giving me your time today and coming in. Like, this is a lot of fun.
It's a blast for me too. I love talking
awesome.
fishing.
Yeah, so. You were awesome, dude. This has been a great show. And listen, if you guys, this sounds like a killer experience. So I think people should jump on it. But obviously you only have one spot left. You know what I mean? But yeah. How often are you getting down there after your December time?
So for now, and for the foreseeable future, it'll probably be 4 weeks total each year. So it's a lot less than I used to do. But
right.
they run the show. Like, you'll catch just as many fish if you fish with them. And like there's plenty of spots in October, November. But if you want to fish with me, that one spot in December, my weeks in April and May next year are already sold out. But I'll be coming back in December that year too, or next year too, and there's some spots there as well.
Very cool.
I mean, you'll have a blast with the rest of the guys there if you want to go and I can't make it.
Yeah, nice. Tell everyone how to find you online.
My socials are Adam Fisk, so ADAM or the and @ ADAMFISHK. That's Instagram, TikTok, all that. Los Buzos, if you want to look up the resort, Los Buzos Resort on Instagram, and Los Buzos Panama on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got our YouTube pages too, so you'll find us if you look it up.
Nice.
And if they want to see that kayak or the Marlin kayak video, just type in "man catches Marlin from kayak."
Right.
It's got like
you're the one that pops up.
It's got like 7 million views. It'll be the first one that comes up.
Very, very cool. And also, if you want to try kayak fishing, I mean, here is a great place to try that, to get started.
Man.
I mean, you could go right off the beach here, go over to Nautical Ventures. Those guys will hook you up, right?
Yeah.
I went over there with Liz. We were going to buy a kayak. We're still in the market, so we're probably going to go back there and get something. We haven't pulled the trigger on it because she loves kayaking. But you know, when I was talking to those guys over there, super knowledgeable, super helpful, super nice staff. Like, everyone was really, really cool over there. So
yeah. If you guys want to get into it, like, probably the best kayak or best fishing kayak for this area, I would say the Hobie Outback or the Old Town Salty PDL, which is a super fun boat, and it's cheaper than you would think. It's a really quality boat, but it's like half the price of the Hobie. And if you're thinking about the Old Town too, like, they're killer. Pedal drive, different type of pedal drive. You got the prop on the bottom, but it also has instant reverse, which is super helpful, especially if you're fishing mangroves and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That way you can, like, if you're inshore catching snook or by the pilings or something, you hook up, you can immediately pedal backwards and pull that thing out of the pilings. And like we were saying in the beginning, like, if you have a paddle kayak, you hook a snook in the mangroves or the pilings, he's just going to pull you in. He's going to break you off.
Right.
So if you have something like that, like a Hobie or an Old Town, like that's really going to increase your fish catches, and you're gonna be able to spend more time on the water, without getting too winded.
Yeah, and I would think after what we talked about today, like, if I'm buying a kayak for me to go fishing, like, I would, no question, get a pedal drive.
I would never go back to a paddle kayak unless I'm like in a stream or something, where you would bust up pedals if you're shallow.
True.
But that's it.
Yeah, right on. Adam, thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming in.
It was a blast.
Yeah, your
appreciate
ego,
the invite.
Yeah, your ego is not your amigo. Always do your best at the end of the day. Just let God do the rest. And do not ever forget that no matter where we are, no matter what we're doing, we're all connected by water.
Yes, sir. Beautiful.